On this week's inCycle, rising star Floris Geerts on his jump into the pro ranks with BMC Racing Team.
I didn't look back, nothing at all. For 1 kilometre, I rode as hard as I could, and in the end, it was enough to win. You get the opportunity to show yourself.
We have the inside track on race nutrition with Team Katusha's Rob Child.
One of the things I've always used is a personalised approach to nutrition, so it's not one size fits all.
Ahead of this week's Paris-Roubaix, we reflect with those who've ridden the famous cobbles.
If you think about it, you find the oldest roads in France and you're going to ride on it with a bike. It's really stupid.
But first we go behind the scenes at the UCI Women's World Tour, Ronde van Vlaanderen. The fifth round of the UCI Women's World Tour was back in Belgium for the Ronde van Vlaanderen, and the question on everybody's mind was who could stop the Boels-Dolmans Express. The strongest challenge looked likely to come from Wiggle High Five, boasting last year's winner Elisa Longo-Borghini and runner-up Jolien Dehors, as well as three-time podium finisher this year Emma Johansson. inCycle took a special look at the team's Flanders experience, starting on the eve of the race as riders are fully briefed on tactics and topography, leaving no cobble unturned.
We only did one race really bad. That was in Drenthe. There was a lot of miscommunication. Girls waiting for each other, not acting immediately. The real split moments, then the race is decided and you have to be there, no hesitating, boom, be there. I think they found the confidence back this week. That's most important. We had a presentation here. We were several times on the course. Jolien and Emma are living in this area, both. If you want to win Flanders, it's all about course knowledge. And the knowledge is there. And I think, I don't say we're going to win tomorrow, but we will be close.
You know what we have to do. We know our opponents. No excuses. Follow your heart. Follow the general tactic. Be focused. Yeah? And act when you have to act. Don't wait for me in the last 40K till I say something. Sometimes you have to act. Do it. And I prefer girls that decide something, or riders, then make no decisions. Yeah. And for every decision you make, I'm responsible. You can blame me. I don't care. But make a decision. If I'm not there, make a decision. Don't hesitate like in the races before. Go for it. Right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, girls, there's a breakaway group of 4 riders. As you can see, let it go is not important for us. We still have 60K to go. So I think the race will start in 20K from now, really start. For us it's really good because we have all the riders in the first group and I'm happy with that. You have to try to drop Lizzie. That's very, very important for us. If you want to win, we have to drop her. So try it on the next class. We're now close before our quadrant, the second last hill of the race. This is the most important climb, I think, in Flanders. This is one of our last chances to drop fast riders from the other teams. Elisa, as far as I know the situation, it is Emma in the lead with Armistead. The only thing you can do now is wait for the right moment for yourself or your alone to bridge the gap, if you have the legs. Emma, you have a gap of 80 seconds. The best thing you can do now is let Lizzie do the longer turns. So let Lizzie do the longer turns. You understand? You still work a little bit with her, but Lise has to do long turns.
Emma Johansson coming round to the Swedish champion on the left-hand side with the yellow helmet. It's the rainbow jersey on the right-hand side. Armitstead, who's raiding the hit in the front again, but it's hard. It's Johansson who's in front. No, it's going to be a real sprint to the line. Armitstead's going to do it. Armitstead's there, and the rainbow jersey is there.
It's so emotional to be here and do this race, and on every section you can hear your name, and I can hear Jolene's name, and it's like everyone is there to support us. And I don't know, it's just a pity we couldn't be on the top step today. I think we would have deserved it. We really did everything we could to be there.
We were beating only on the finish line, and it was a little bit, and they really struggled and fight, and the whole team was there when they have to be in the front. So they did everything what I asked them to do yesterday and this morning. And if you are beaten then at the finish line and you tried really everything what they did, that's in the game. The highlights in the season, of course, are the UCI Women's World Tour races. Until now, we could not win these races, but we have so many more races. But it still will be a highlight, and I still believe that at the end of the season, my team can be number one.
So the Boels-Dolmans juggernaut remains unstoppable as Lizzie Armitstead makes it 5 straight UCI Women's World Tour victories for the team. Chantal Blaak completed the podium behind Wiggle High Five's Emma Johansson. And with her 3rd win, it's Lizzie Armitstead who returns to the top of the UCI Women's World Tour rankings, replacing Chantal Blaak in the leader's jersey. And now for some news. Fabian Cancellara was hoping to claim his 4th Flanders title in the men's ronde, but all eyes were on Peter Sagan as the world champion looked to build on his Ghent-Wevelgem victory and claim a first monument. After a controlled start, it was with 32 kilometres to go that the race opened up, and it was Sagan who applied the pressure on the Paterberg and soloed to victory. With that win, Sagan cements himself in the top spot of the rankings, whilst Fabian Cancellara and Sepp van Marke move into the top 10 ahead of this weekend's Paris-Roubaix. Few teams were as busy as Katusha over the winter. New kits, new riders and an all-important new member of staff. Dr. Rob Child joined the team as a performance biochemist, having worked at the top level of the sport for nearly 6 years. He was tasked with preparing Katusha's top riders for the biggest races. inCycle recently went inside the mind of this nutrition guru to understand some of the physiological challenges faced by the riders.
It's always a big challenge when you meet a new team, you have new riders. Their physiology is different, and one of the things I've always used is a personalised approach to nutrition, so it's not one size fits all. And if I'm honest, it's quite a long process. I spent about an hour at the training camp in Calpe discussing their nutrition and their health history and so on, and also working with the medical team who showed me the medical records as well. So then we get an idea about how often has this guy been sick, how often have they suffered severe fatigue at the end of a grand tour, have they suffered with muscle cramps and so on. And based on that, then we can come up with some interventions to try and improve on those things.
Just as in training, sprinters and GC riders have to be prepared differently. Yet in nutrition, this preparation has to be even more specific to the individual riders. So whilst the likes of Ilno Zakarin and Joaquim Rodriguez can both mix it in the big mountains, getting there requires 2 unique nutritional paths.
In some ways there are similarities, and in some ways there are huge differences. I mean, for example, with Perito, he's told me that if he just doesn't pay attention to the food he's eating, he'll end up like a little barrel. So he's normally fighting to get his weight down, while Zakarin is always lean and always thin. So physiologically, you've got very different riders there. So one, to some extent, we need to actually support, probably with more nutrition, to actually maintain their muscle mass, for example, so they can maintain the power outputs they need. And the other, we actually need to think about strategies that are effective for reducing body fat and maintaining or even reducing muscle mass. So you've got 2 guys with exactly the same role, but totally different approaches to the nutrition. In terms of the demands of climbers and sprinters, there again, we can use go a slightly different route to some extent with the sprinters. They can be heavier, so you can use certain supplements and things like that that potentially have weight gain, for example, as a side effect, but the benefit is an increase in absolute power, which is beneficial, obviously, at the end of the race, providing it's relatively flat.
And the challenges don't stop there. Applying these nutritional practices can be easier said than done for a team that could be in as many as 3 places at once.
You can read about the science, and I studied the science for a long time and continue to study the science, but at some point you have to say, well, what are we going to do practically in the field to actually help the riders improve their performance? And that's really the tricky thing, because you don't have a whole physiology lab, and you have a truck, a bus, and some soigneurs and some cars, and how do you deliver the nutrition that you deliver in the lab that you know works? And that's the real challenge.
While team leaders like Alexander Christophe receive highly tailored nutritional programs, for some of the more junior riders, the responsibility of maintaining Child's nutritional standards falls on their own shoulders. And Child admits inexperienced riders can often look towards good role models and find bad habits.
I've got 27 riders to look after, so we can't all give them an enormous leap forward. So we have to work with individuals, and some of the guys who probably need the most assistance, some of the young riders, for example, who are just new to the team and don't know who to follow or what to do, and they look to their star rider like Christophe and think, well, Christophe has lots of cakes before the race, therefore that's what I should do, or Christophe does X, therefore that's the correct thing to do, but that is probably not the correct thing to do unless their physiology is the same as Christophe's is, which very few people have, I think.
So where next for nutrition in cycling? While debates rage over high-fat, low-carbohydrate diets and the like, in Rob Child's mind, something vital is being overlooked: a rider's health.
If we look at what happens to riders, what are the challenges to riders? For example, if riders are often getting sick, then rather than focusing on producing more watts, the key thing is to actually keep them healthy, and that's so often overlooked by coaches and training. If we can field Christophe in the same form that he had in Oman for the whole season, he's going to win a lot of races. It's not about him producing more power, it's just about him maintaining what he's already got.
"24-year-old Floris Gertz was a medical student for whom cycling was a hobby. After 3 years of college, he decided to change his goals to become a professional cyclist. He represented several development teams, including Rabobank, and his then manager saw something in him and managed to get him a spot on the BMC Devo team. He won his second race of the season, putting him firmly on the radar of the pro team.
This year, I became a pro rider with the BMC racing team. Last year, I rode for the BMC Devo team. Until last year, I combined racing with my study to become a doctor. This year, I decided to become a professional cyclist and to fully go for it. If I can continue to grow, become better, then that would be great. Then I can see after cycling what I will do. Even if I ride as a pro for 10 years, after that, I would really like to become a doctor.
So some big decisions for an aspiring youngster, having to choose between a career as a doctor or pro cyclist. His team, however, have left both options open to him.
When I was an intern at BMC Devo, the team manager called me up and asked me if I could find a good balance between my studies and my cycling. Normally, which team manager would ask this? Normally they would say, "This is your chance, just go for it." So that is a different mindset. There is a lot of confidence here in the team. Instead of thinking, can I start my career here? Everybody's got a good balanced program. Not too much, but also not too little.
Through the opportunity given to him by the BMC development team, Floris had the chance to show his class during the Dorpen Omloop Rukfun, catapulting his career.
I didn't look back. Nothing at all. For 1 kilometre, I rode as hard as I could, and in the end, it was enough to win. If you get the opportunity to show yourself, and if you are doing really well, then you can progress to the BMC Pro Team. But there aren't a lot of riders who can do that.
Racing while studying at the same time is a heavy workload, and it soon became apparent to Floris that he would have to make some hard decisions about time allocation. The balance has taken time to master, but now it's showing itself to be on point.
During club racing, when I started to ride crits and classics, I always started at the back, on the last wheel. And slowly, I worked my way to the front of the peloton. After 2 years, I won some races. Then at Crowford, I raced one level higher and had to start all over again at the back. Then after the switch to Rabobank Devo, and then BMC Development Team, and now again to the Pro Team, I had to start all over from the back of the peloton once more. Finally, I now have to work my way to the front and hope that I can actually compete at this level.
He is a typical classics rider, and with the combination of training and the knowledge garnered from the likes of Greg van Avermaet, he feels he has the perfect springboard to success.
Absolutely, he gives me a lot of tips. We have spoken about races and how to approach them. He's very relaxed about it, and he has taught me a lot. He has been racing for quite some time now, and has achieved lots of things over the years. That is the same for all the older riders, and I especially listen to the successful ones, because they have got the most things right.
With the backing of BMC and support and advice from established riders, the 2016 season should prove to be yet another chapter of success for Geerts.
I have a really good program this year. I'm riding a combination of World Tour races and the races that are classified just below that. This is great because in the non-World Tour races, I have the opportunity to race for myself and not just support the team. But when I'm on the World Tour, I get to learn how things work in those bigger races from the more experienced riders, and that you don't just ride to fill the peloton, but also do your job and help the main guy to win.
Paris-Roubaix, the hell of the north, over 250 kilometres with 27 cobbled sectors that push man and machine to their limit.
You can race 120 days a year if you want to, and they're all kind of more or less the same, but that one day is just different to everything else.
I grew up watching racing on television, and at that time, when I'm 6 years old, there weren't many races on TV. In Roubaix, there was dust, there was chaos, there was crashes. You know, everything that would capture your imagination as a kid, you know, screaming on the side of the road. I still remember afterwards just talking about how one day I'd love to win this race, and 20 years later you're there.
First of all, you need to do all the other classics, and you live from the first classic to there, you live for that race.
What made me wake up in the morning to ride my bike every day was thinking about winning Paris-Roubaix, and I didn't go out training for 6 hours in November in freezing cold rain and wind come third.
If you think about it, you find the oldest roads in France and you're going to ride on it with a bike. It's really stupid. If you feel good, it's fantastic to ride them and be in the front and fight with the first. But if you feel bad, it's a nightmare to ride on it.
By the time you get to hit the first cobblestone, every bike rattles like it's unbelievable. And obviously you got the crowds on the side of the road, and everything about it is chaotic and is hectic.
The first 80k, I didn't go into triple figures in my heart rate because I was just so focused on saving energy. And then, you know, the race just goes like this, you know, and it's because you're analysing every single stone, you know, every piece of cobbles was my opportunity to save energy.
What I remember, we had a headwind. So my goal was, okay, you wait so long as possible, because if you go early break, it's very difficult to stay in the front. So I waited, and I felt good.
Baldata came back to me and said, look, how are you feeling? And I said, look, I don't think the mechanic put a chain on the bike today. I just can't feel the pedals underneath me. And at that moment, you know, something kind of clicked.
Van Petegem came up to me halfway through the race and just said, look, you're going really well, I'm going to attack on the next sector, come with me. So he attacked, I followed him, and he punctured straight away. So that was the biggest favourite of the race gone.
Many riders who could go for the victory had a flat tyre. It's bad for them, but good for me. And I was like, if I want to win it, I have to win it. Win it today. Come on, you need to go for it. This is the moment. Because I was 2 times fourth before.
There was only 5 of us left, and then we're fortunate enough to that Museau punctured with on the last section. And I remember missing that stone by like fractions of a millimetre.
You cannot help but walk into that velodrome and get sucked into the emotion in there. There's definitely, it feels like this hallowed place in cycling to me, you know, and I cannot ever go back there and not, you know, run through every emotion that I ever had in that bike race.
The first time I rode it back in '98, I got in there and I went, sort of looked around, whoa, the noise was just deafening. The year I won it, all I could hear was the tyre noise against the velodrome, the brakes kind of rubbing, going onto the rims, and everyone changing gears.
You do 256.8k perfectly, and then last 200 metres you make a mistake, but that's something you never get back again. And I was too confident in the sprint, I took the long line, and really I should have had more respect for my rivals.
Everything has to play into your hands, perfectly. And when it finally did happen, I mean, yeah, it's relief. My shower cubicle is next to Eddie Merckx, and being somewhat into my cycling history, that was quite special.
It was a highlight for me, but from the other side it was also a long way down because I've never been that close, and it was a great opportunity to win Paris-Roubaix.
Roger and I have been good friends for quite a long time, and it was one of those weird moments when I stick my hands up in the air having won that race, and the first person that kind of rolls through on my right hand side is Roger Hammond, and knowing that he'd just missed out, it was kind of painful, but at the same time, I couldn't be disappointed because I just won the biggest bike race there is in the world.
That's all for this week. We'll see you next time, but until then, keep up to date with us on social media.